Hello, Barney. Thanks for joining us in this podcast, Rewindning from Montenegro.
No problem.
First, I heard a new album. You sound and play like a young band full of energy. You sing well. Are you satisfied with final product?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's an interesting point that you made there, because we don't see age when it comes to making music. We always think if you have the idea, if you have the enthusiasm, then age is irrelevant, you know. So I would always kind of dispute what is a young band and what isn't a young band. I think it's the emphasis is on the ideas and the enthusiasm and of course the execution of the music, you know, the idea, you know.
Because when we think about those things, we think also about physically your voice and such energy that you put in your shows and your music. It's different than some rock bands who last like for 50 years. Do you feel physically that age is coming and you're not feel that young and that voice suffering?
No, Dragon, not at all, actually, you know, because as I said, you know, on an individual level, for me personally, my mind has always been, if I want to do something, whatever it is in life, I'll do it.
Right.
I don't approach it going like, oh, this is going to be difficult. You know, I'm a lot older now or whatever. I don't approach it like that, you know, so I have the same physical energy on stage as what I did when I was 25, 30 years old. And so I don't feel it. And the voice, I don't have any real problems with the voice at all. You know, the secret with the voice is I take care of myself physically. You know, I'm quite healthy. I look after myself. Right. So if you look after the whole of your body, well, of course, everything's connected. So your voice will look after itself too, if you give it the best chance possible with looking after the rest of your body, you know.
Right. And my feeling when I listen to this album is that this is a bit heavier and darker sound than previous. Are you influenced more with those genre, like heavy metal more and black metal?
No, we're not influenced really by black metal or heavy metal, to be honest. Right. The darker influences you refer to are more like post-punk and on a noise rock and noise pop. That's where the darkness comes from. Right. So it's like things like Killing Joke, who had a very apocalyptic sound, you know, right. like Joy Division, you know, the old English dark pop band, you know, pop rock band, if you right. want to call it that, and various other things I could mention. So it's not from heavy metal and black metal. I would say there's a few things guitar wise that we do that might have that element in, but in not in many other ways, if I'm completely honest.
Also, the length is 40 minutes. It's for grind album. It's a lot.
Yeah, but then we write what the content of the songs that we do is constantly always going very, you know, always going, you know, so with 12 songs, each one has its own differences, obviously, then it can be done, you know, it can be done. Right. Don't forget there's like the grindcore albums of in the early days were like still probably 30 minutes, so 20 to 30 minutes. So it's not that far, you know, from that.
And the production is very good. what you think about all that stuff, raw mixing and very professional sound and producing? Are you always for it that bands should be better and better in those terms?
Well, yes, but there's a danger of being too polished, too mechanical in approach to recording, because there is a tendency sometimes with bands to, once there is a particular sound on a particular album that becomes, you know, that appeals to a lot of people, bands just copy that sound rather than, okay, maybe using the basis and then giving it their own identity, you know. So there is a danger in like whole groups of band being very monotone, you know, very similar.
Right.
And that's not good, because if you're going to be creative with your music, your production should also be creative. I've always believed that, you know. There are different techniques you can use to give your production an extra boost, you know what I mean? So I do find that a little bit strange sometimes, that some bands will just set the controls on a recording desk and play all their songs and not change it, you know. It's a little odd to me, because then people are just going to, you'd stand a chance of people losing interest, because the whole thing's going to sound the same from start to finish, you know.
Right. And when we speak about this topic, do you think then that genre is created to sell the music, not to improve it? Because when you die hard fans expecting a crust album, it must be a crust album. You involving with the sound and the themes and like every person in life.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for Napalm Death, you know. It's like we have three kind of, not rules really, but you know, it's got to be abrasive, confrontational, and extreme, you know.
Right.
The combination of the sound and the ideas, as long as they hit those three things, then it's fine, you know. So then we can experiment, you know. So yes, there are people who are always going to want to hear the same album, you know, or the same type of album 10 times over. But that's a minority, you know. So when you make music, you have to be a little bit selfish. You have to please yourself first, because if you don't please yourself first, you're going to be unhappy, you know, once you put something out for people to hear, you know. So therefore you have to be a little bit selfish, you know. And so with Napalm, yes, we like I said, we have these certain conditions that we need to meet, but above and beyond that, we will do what we feel is the right thing to do. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't, you know. Right. Because you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
Inevitably, there's going to be some people somewhere along the line who just are not satisfied with what you do. And that's no problem. Everybody's got the right to their own opinion, you know, and I 100% respect that, you know. But in terms of creativity, you have to do what you feel is the right thing for your band, and that's what Napalm Death does. So
right. Now I want to ask you about cover art and this feeling. On cover there's a Serger glove. Are you influenced by all these things in the world, virus and all this media stuff on this?
Yeah, no, well, that's only coincidence, Dragan, because the album was written before the virus situation, so it was nothing. The surgical glove is just to show an aggressive hand that's obviously violated this dove, which is a symbol of peace, you know, and tolerance. Right. And so that's what the glove represents in that context, you know. Right. So yeah, people have tried to make that connection, but this album was written a long time before the virus thing. And in any case, I don't think the virus situation would give Napalm Death specifically and influence ideas wise, because Napalm Death doesn't deal with those sort of topics, you know. So,
but do you feel that then this political side about peace and this racial tension is also coincident, or you write about those topics?
no, we wrote about it.
Yeah.
We wrote about them because we always try to reflect like current situations, and to be quite honest about it, the dehumanization and the prejudice against certain groups of people is now even perpetuated by national governments, you know. So I mean, we all know about some of the things that Donald Trump says, you know, but even in Europe, you know, you've got people like Viktor Orban, who openly comes out and says like really fucking unpleasant things about refugees, you know, and which is completely unnecessary. This is fellow human beings, you know what I mean? This is not pieces of dirt on the floor, you know. This is other human beings.
Yeah.
And you know, in like Poland, you know, the treatment of LGBTQ plus people, you know, somehow the dehumanization of them. I mean, there's even these establishment of gay-free zones in the country. I mean, this stuff's insane. You know what I mean? It's like it's the tactics of fascism. That's what it is. You know, that's what fascists have done in history. They have separated out certain groups in the population, and they've discredited them completely, to the point where the local population has become so brainwashed by this stuff that in the end, potentially, some very horrible things could happen. You know, people could get murdered for this stuff, you know. This is serious stuff, you know. So that's the general thematics, you know, of the album.
And from your point of view as an artist and musician, do you think that art and music should be political? I read yesterday that I think Nick Cave said that political correction is killing the world. Do you think that people should listen to the politics in art, so to speak?
Well, there's two parts to that question, basically. So Dragon, I'm not saying it has to be political,
right,
or it has to be apolitical, or it has to be people standing on their heads, you know, shouting. I'm not saying it needs to be anything. That's the whole point. Music is freedom. It's one of the last bastions of freedom. So it can be whatever it wants to be. I'm not going to criticize other bands for not being political. Everybody's got to choose their own path, you know. The point here is that Napalm Death is both political. I understand why people call it, but it's also apolitical, because it recognizes that politics is meaningless if the end result doesn't help people, you know. And a lot of times mainstream politics doesn't, you know. So that's the whole point. Yeah. So I'm not saying music bands have to be anything. They can be what they want, you know. That's the freedom of music. The thing that Nick Cave said about political correctness shows a very narrow view. And actually, there's a serious point about this phrase, political correctness, which has kind of become a buzzword. You know, political correctness was actually a phrase kind of manufactured by an ultra-conservative radio jock who was a politician, Newt Gingrich, in the US, a US guy. What I don't like about that phrase is that what it does, it attempts to discredit people who in the world generally try to enact humanitarian principles. You know what I mean? It tries to somehow discredit those people as being just people that just complain for the sake of it. And that's bullshit. You know what I mean? It's bullshit. It's you know, if it's a bad thing to actually want equality for all human beings, then I don't know how to answer that, respond to that phrase, you know, because that's what it's basically saying. They're saying, yeah, all these people that complain about people being treated badly and all the rest of it. It's just people just making something for the sake of it. No, it isn't. There's very real reasons why this world needs to kind of shift a little bit, you know what I mean? Very real reasons, and history proves it, you know.
Right.
So I would suggest that that phrase is just a nonsense. It's a smokescreen that's used to discredit people, you know. And I when people say politically correct this, politically correct that, it's fucking stupid, you know, that phrase, if I'm quite honest, you know. So
because we always heard like quotes that music could change the world or should change the world, but today it's so realistic that we think only media and the politicians create the world and stuff in this world, but there's no one healthy to trust.
well, the point is Dragon, is you don't give up as an artist if you're so inclined to do so. If you're like Napalm's is, if you have a very sort of a very you have a desire to put ideas on the table, you know, and have people consider them and all the rest of it, then you just don't give up. Yeah, of course, I'm not naive enough to suggest that Napalm Death's going to shift the world on its axis overnight. That would be ridiculous to even suggest that. But that doesn't mean to say you give up. You know, we are Napalm Death and many other bands that choose to write about certain ideas. We are part of the artistic, an artistic strand of endorsing humane ideas. You know, that's what we are. So we are as much a part of that side of the argument, if you want to put it that way, than anybody else. So I guess my point is, the more people, bands, whatever else you care to mention, are in that argument, the better. You know, you don't just give up just because you can't stop the world from being unequal overnight. Of course you don't. It's a process. You know, it's a process that will go far beyond my own lifetime, you know. So, but you don't give up. You know, you don't just give up, you know. You also, carry on if you're so inclined.
Also, I think that people love Napalm is because they believe in your words, and that you stand behind those words, and they have weight. Because I think your and bands like you are different than some pop or I don't know, some other artists. You really stand behind your words.
Yeah, because, you know, but Dragon, I honestly, I don't even need to put myself elevate. Oh, that's my next interview, actually. 1 second. I'll put him off for like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
1 second. Oh, is that Gary? Hello, mate. Yeah, listen, mate, would you mind? Can you give me another 10 minutes? Because my interviews have all run over as per usual. Could you call me back in 10? Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, it's just if you call me back bang on 22, that would be great. All right, Mucker. Sorry about the delay. All right, speak to you in a sec. Bye. Yeah, sorry, Dragon. I've had to put him off for 10 minutes, you know, because of the delay. Sorry, do you want to repeat?
Yeah, do you feel weight about your words as an artist? Because people...
yeah, I mean, I don't... you know, here's the thing. You know, this was not about me personally.
Right.
You know, the whole Napalm Death lyrical thrust, if you like. It's about the collective. You know, I don't do it to make myself look better to other people. You know, it's really not. It's about the idea and how we can get the idea across. That's the thing that matters the most, you know. So yeah, I do stand behind what I say. Why would I not? Basically, I would ask, you know. Yeah, I wouldn't put an idea out there unless I thought it was the idea that needed to be put across in simple terms, you know.
Right. I want to ask you about Birmingham scene and bands that coming from that city. That's special. You have more famous bands. In which way that city influenced you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like you say, there's a lot of old, quite well-known bands out of Birmingham. You know what? Here's the thing. So, I don't know if it did influence us. I mean, we're a Birmingham band. I'm from Birmingham. I was born, I grew up in Birmingham. So I know Birmingham is quite close to my heart in a lot of ways. But did it have an influence on Napalm Death that another city couldn't have had influence? I don't know. It's a hard one. I can't give you any specifics that would change the band as if it had come from another city, because, there's a tendency sometimes to over romanticize this whole thing about where bands come from a little bit. Sometimes it reaches the levels of where people say, oh yeah, well, it must be something in the water, that made this band sound like, I mean, sorry, what? It's like kind of a little bit meaningless, so honestly, Dragon, I can't give you an answer to that, because it's just, it's, I don't know, it's a Birmingham band, from Birmingham. That's all it is, really,
But Aston Villa or Birmingham FC?
Yeah, football, but that has no reflection on Napalm Death, So for me, yeah, as an individual, yeah, I'm an Aston Villa supporter, but yeah.
And the last question I want to ask you, after all this long time career and all ups and downs, for you, what's the best period in that journey?
Best period. I think, I mean, everything's a learning process. Everything's a stepping stone. But I think since we did Enemy of the Music Business, I think our understanding as makers of music, our more learning, the stepping stones from beforehand, I think that's really helped us in terms of making albums. And I just think it's nothing that we've done to directly appeal to commercial sentiments, but I think ever since Enemy of the Music, the band's got like bigger and bigger and bigger, and while still being noisy and noisy and noisier and noisier, so it's really strange, how that goes.
Right. Barney, that's it for this time. Thanks a lot for an interview.
Thank you, Dragon.
Lot of success with the record and a lot of health.
Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. All right, Dragon. All the best. Hope to see you in Montenegro at some point.
Yeah.
It'll
be good for the first time.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely, man. Definitely.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. All the best to you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.